Khumisi Kganare is an attorney at Kganare and Khumalo Incorporated Attorneys. Khumisi, good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us on this breaking news. So we now have this finding that the former MEC, the former head of the Mental Health Directorate, are legally responsible for the deaths of at least some of the 144 people who passed away. What happens next in this process? This is a finding by an inquest. How does it go from here?
Yeah, well, it depends, Steve. And, I have just learned that, the former head of health services indicated that she's in consultations with the legal representatives. So one of the things that might happen is, they appeal this judgment. If they don't, then, there's a process, a criminal proceedings process that will have to unfold because, taken from the judgment itself, even though it doesn't replace the criminal proceedings process, we now know that there is something to be answered to by whoever is held responsible in terms of that judgment.
I presume it then goes to the NPA, right? Would they be the ones who have to consider laying charges?
Correct. Charges will have to be laid, and a new process now will have to ensue, in terms of criminal law, the CPA, Criminal Procedure Act. And, the accused will then get an opportunity to also, respond to allegations of culpable homicide, which we know is a different process compared to murder. But there's a lot that I think has already been done in terms of this process, the inquest process that we now have judgment in respect of.
Khumisi, we've seen in the past that the NPA can take quite a long time to make a decision. I would like to think, after all of the processes that we've seen, and the fact that this is an inquest, this is not a commission of inquiry into state capture, this is an inquest, I would like to hope that the NPA could maybe move quite quickly here.
Steve, it's beyond our, system's control. And by system, I mean the judicial system. I mean, we've seen a lot of, especially criminal law cases. We have about 2 examples now of, high-profile cases that we know have taken years, and we still, hearing them even today. They're in the process, leading to conclusion. So I mean, over and above that concern we have with this process that involves life many, there is also a possibility of an appeal by the former MEC and the former head of health services, which will even delay things, further. So it looks like we have, quite a number of years ahead of us to get to, if you may, a proper closure or conclusion of this issue.
Can the evidence and the testimony that was heard at the inquest be used in the criminal trial? I deliberately sort of pointed to the state capture inquiry because we learned there that evidence at that inquiry cannot be used by the NPA. It has to go and get its own evidence. Is it different here because this is an inquest?
Look, not necessarily, Stephen, because even remember with criminal proceedings, we still approach it, with the attitude that says you are innocent until proven guilty. So we cannot go there, especially the NPA, with an attitude that says we presume you guilt until you prove yourself innocent. So as a result, they wouldn't necessarily be allowed to, if you may, copy and paste or cut and paste the inquest into the new criminal proceedings. Okay. They will have to still go out there and get the evidence. I mean, if it's evidence that was used in the inquest, it's evidence that can still be put together and collected in other ways.
In other words, for some people, they'll probably have to testify on this for the 3rd time, from what you suggest.
Yes.
A culpable homicide, how serious is that? Would someone, I mean, in this case, if there was a finding against the MEC, against officials here, by a criminal court that they were guilty of culpable homicide, would that lead to jail time?
I mean, culpable homicide is less serious than murder or premeditated murder, Steve. For instance, a big differentiator is that with culpable homicide, the cause of death of another person was negligent. And for something that you did negligently, you wouldn't necessarily be held at, a very high standard as compared to a process where you are found guilty of murder or premeditated murder. So with culpable homicide, it's just 4 elements: causing of the death of another person negligently and unlawfully. There is a possibility of imprisonment, but in most cases, it gets suspended. There are conditions that come with that. It's not always that you get people imprisoned because of culpable homicide. There will be mitigating factors and other things that will be considered that might lead to a suspended sentence that comes with quite a number of conditions that we cannot know at the moment.
I imagine there'll be a very interesting process around this. Khumisi, you're a lawyer, you understand all of these processes. I think for many people, this all happened 7, 8 years ago, right? And we're probably, let's say, optimistically, 2 years, maybe 3 years away from an actual finding in a criminal court. I think many people are going to look at the law, they're going to look at this situation, and they're going to say, you know what? The law doesn't work. Now, I realize for you, you understand how it works. You're an insider. I think for the rest of us as outsiders, can you understand that frustration? I don't think I could look any of the victims' families in the eyes today and say the law has worked for them.
Yeah, Steve, the law really works. It's the main concern really is the time that it takes for issues to be resolved. And we wouldn't call our system a system that really, realizes justice if it's not a process that, first of all, gives everyone an opportunity to put their case across, to argue their case, to test the evidence, and all those things that needs to be done in any application or trial proceedings that you might have. So I would say that it does work. The main concern really is time, because even now when you look at the inquest, there might be evidence that, for instance, people have passed on, that you cannot really go back to and still get testimony. But you can still argue with the evidence that you were able to put together that maybe this must be admissible because of these reasons, and that takes time. But eventually, justice will be served.
Khumisi Kganare, thank you very much indeed. I really do appreciate the legal insight today from Kganare Khumalo Incorporated. Well, more reaction to the developing story. There's several other developing stories as well this afternoon, both in Durban and in Parliament. We'll update you on those too.